Welcome to the next episode of KapVista Klips. Today we have Kelechi from Warehouse Node. How are you?
I'm good, Daniel. How are you too?
Good, good. Thanks for jumping on. I'm really excited to chat and find out a bit about what you're doing and what Warehouse Node is. But before we jump into Warehouse Node, let's find out about you. Tell us about you. What's your story? What's your background? How did you get to this point?
Right. First of all, thanks for having me, Daniel. And it's been a pleasure interacting with you over the years. And I'm glad that we at this point to discuss one of the innovations that I'm pretty much very passionate about. And yeah, thank you for having me today. About myself, Kelechi and I'm primarily at the moment, I'm a founder and principal consultant in data engineering. Specialize in the area of digital operations. So basically, digital operations is basically how you bring automation and other technology software into a business to try and improve their operation, right? In a nutshell, that's what it is. So basically, that's an area that I'm passionate about. And I guess coming into that space has been a journey that began, right from my education when I first finished an engineering degree in mechatronics, which is automation, software, and technology. And that background sort of got me into it was such an early stage as well, because when we finished that, it was a thing where we were also pretty much confused what we were going to do in the industry. So we came out, with this knowledge around technology and robotics, but we didn't know where to apply it. So when we came in the industries where we first worked, when I say we, I mean all of us cohorts that graduated at the time back in 2006. So we were basically, working in different fields. Some went into mechanical, electrical. But for myself, I sort of got straight into industry. And at the time, my first exposure was really just working with the like in meat industry, which was Meat and Livestock Australia. So that experience was very, very good at an early stage because it exposed me to the industry, right? So being as part of an industry meant that I had to work with an industry body, which was trying to set a standard and promote technology in an industry that is very much old because agricultural industry, they're pretty much old in the way they do things. So bringing in technology to that kind of space was a bit scary for them. So they needed people like us who could come in and sort of make it easy for them to understand the value that technology could bring. And then also the adoption was also something that we were obviously were tasked to do to make sure that whatever we are implementing was actually approved when it comes to building a business case that was approved, right? So that was my first exposure and getting in there, passionate about technology and then, trying to bring it into the industry was an eye opener for me. And it was, I'll say this is one of the foundations of my career, right? Because you're working with people at different levels. Yeah. To try and bring in that kind of stuff. So I worked during my time there and it was quite interesting, but I stayed there and then moved into another industry after I decided that I actually wanted to try different things. At the time, I was really passionate about technology. Where we're going to apply the next knowledge, right? So that got me into the mining and construction industry. So my exposure to mining and construction was through my work with Siemens, which is one of the global engineering powerhouse, or I'll call them, because they're involved in everything, really. So but my exposure in Siemens was around the delivery of what at the time was conveyor drives to different mine sites. So that experience was also invaluable in the sense that I was exposed to working with multiple companies in they call it EPCM, which is Equipment Procurement and Construction Management space. So these companies, from I call OEM is basically the original equipment manufacturer, which Siemens was. So we make equipment and we deliver it to different customers, right? So it was mining, oil and gas, and this type of customers. So that kind of technology, without going into detail, is basically a system that is complex, right? Because you are trying to make something work, right? It's not just building something, it has to work. So you have to take it, go into the client side in the mine environment and make sure that system works. So in that case, it's multi-layered and very, what's it called? Complex, right? In that sense. So there's obviously a team of professionals, experts would be working together, collaborating to make this happen. So I was fortunate to be involved in that team where our task was basically to, build, develop, design, manufacture, and deliver these conveyor drive systems to different mine sites. So that exposure meant that I was involved in supply chain, which is basically movement of goods and services from point A to point B, and information from point A to point B. So that's basically my exposure in that sense. So working in that kind of environment at the time, I think my role was a systems project engineering project manager, something like that. So that role involved, collaborating with customers to understand their requirements and making sure those requirements are communicated to different stakeholders that are involved. So the stakeholders could be other project managers, the design people on ground, different factories that we worked with, Siemens factories across the globe, and making sure that everyone was on board. So that exposure was invaluable as well. So now moving from that minor construction industry, I started my own business. This is back in 2016 instead of data engineering. So data engineering was really focused on, at the time, it was just basically, how do we engineer with data? That's how we started. And then we said, okay, well, let's just, figure out what to do with data, right? Because the technologies were evolving. That was what I noticed at the time. And that was probably like a year after completing my master's in business administration. Sorry, just after completing my master's in business administration. So that exposure to business and coupled with technology knowledge meant that I saw the definite opportunity in coming in and shaping an industry, or sorry, being part of an industry that was evolving. And then the best way to do it was obviously starting up a business. So I started data engineering, and data engineering has obviously evolved over the years. And again, in a new industry, sorry, when there's a new opportunity, and almost like opportunity for a lot of disruption in terms of technology, means that there's a lot of competition will come in. The early stage, some people I mean, I've been through the journey for a long time to say that it's been exciting exposure, right, as an entrepreneur. So you just keep evolving and you become very adaptable, right? But at the end of the day, the mission and vision doesn't change, right? It remains the same. So there's always a guiding compass. I always just use that analogy, like, you have a guiding compass, and then sometimes you know where you're going, but other people might be trying to navigate, right? And they know the opportunity is there, but just don't know how to get there, right? So having a guiding compass always keeps you focused, and then you always go through different challenges, but at the end of the day is really navigating to where your focus is. So the mission for data engineering still remains the same. It's basically digital operations and how we actually help businesses understand what this is and how they can bring technologies into their business easily. So I guess without going into details about data engineering, but what we're talking about today is warehouse node and my journey to warehouse node. So now, warehouse node is basically it's more like it's given the best from the warehouse node comes from my experience, both in a professional setting and a private setting, right? In a professional setting, it's basically when we were designing these big conveyor drives, right? When it comes to logistics of bringing them across to Australia and also moving them to the mine site. One of the key challenges that I observed back then was, like, for example, in some situations where a drive was supposed to be delivered on site as a project manager, right? You get to a point where the site manager might just say, listen, we can't bring this drive to site. We don't know where to store it. There's no space. Can you hold this for us for a period of time until we can decide or find some space? So again, when you say hold it for a period of time, it becomes expensive exercise, right? Someone has to weigh the cost. As a project manager, it's either you're the one wearing the cost or the customer is wearing the cost somewhere. But at the end of the day, there is cost associated to lack of storage, right? And that was one aspect of it, right? And then the other aspect, as a personal point of view, is basically coming from the, everyone would probably have experienced it at some point, right? So you're moving from your house to a new home or something like that, and then you find that just trying to find the right storage company to use to actually facilitate that move and make it seamless, it's not as easy as you think, right? Some people might have one that they use and they just keep using them, but others might just find it difficult to find something, right? Especially if you're new in an area, in a country or something like that. So now, in a particular instance where, let's say you move in, let's say you've just sold your property and you're waiting for the settlement date doesn't align with, the moving date for another property, and then you're just trying to get that alignment, right? and it's not easy. It's outside of your control, so you don't have that kind of alignment. This is a unique example, right, where you just need something temporary that you can quickly make a decision and find storage for your stuff. Whether you're going to stay at a hotel or do something, but at least temporarily you've solved that problem, and then you can decide on what you want to do after. So this is basically two experiences that I personally had, and that's basically my journey to date. Yeah. But aside from all of this, right? I mean, I'm also passionate around education. So I've also been involved with one of the leading education body around digital upskilling in Industry 4, and then also we've been recognized for some of the contribution that I've done as of recent, through Forbes Australia around shaping the future and bridging the gap between people and technology. And this is an area I'm passionate about. It's about how do we bring technology and make it easy for people to adopt. So that's about me. And yep, over to you, Daniel.
Yeah. So that's really interesting. You have experience in, or your career is, bringing technology to what would ordinarily be an archaic or a legacy industry, right? And bringing that experience, working with government bodies, working with legacy industries that are not adaptable to change or haven't been adaptable to change, and now you've got experience bringing that all together, is the combination of Warehouse Node comes in. And using your own pain points and your own experience, you've developed a product or a platform that helps people who just need that bit of space. Now, I've had a bit of experience, through my father, when he was moving factories. He needed to store things, and he had to use. I think he ended up hiring out seven, warehouses, seven, garage storages at Kennard's self storage when he was moving factories. Now, if he had a solution like Warehouse Node, where he could just take the overflow stock and leave it there while he was moving, it would have cost him a lot less and been, an easier process. So, you're unlocking storage at, people may have a large factory that have a corner of the warehouse free that they could, unlock revenue out of that. And on the other side of it, the demand is that you, let's say you're leading up to Christmas and you work in a manufacturing, machinery plant, and you need to order additional stock that may not fit in your current operations or current warehouse. You can hire out someone else's corner and just leave the raw material while you're using it. So it's a really interesting concept.
Yeah, no, that's right, Daniel. I think you nailed it. The other thing is obviously, I mean, I've seen worst case scenarios where, companies have had, especially when you move in heavy equipment, right? You
Yeah.
got to prepare for it. So there is
Yeah.
cranage, there is machineries that are required to actually move it. So trying to find the right facility that's got all of the stuff that you need to be able to make that decision, especially if you look in a work environment, most project managers are not logistic experts, right? They don't understand some of these things, right? So you find that there's always a learning curve that needs to be bridged first before you can actually deliver that to perform well, right? So that's some of the things that that I've experienced here personally, which I'm looking to solve with this particular solution of Warehouse Node as a platform. Yeah.
So tell us more about the platform and the milestones you've achieved.
All right. The platform, Warehouse Node, at the moment, Warehouse Node, as we've launched as a minimum viable product, which is obviously serving the needs of the market currently. And the whole solution is focused on three things, right? One is around flexible short-term storage, right? So what we've done with flexible short-term storage is basically making sure that there are advanced filters that can be modified and added. You can remove and add filters in terms of what are the key things that people actually look when they're looking for storage. What are the key things they require? And whether it's residential or commercial customers, what do they require? So make sure that the filtration is there. Example will be, you want to find something close to you, right? So we have features around geolocation, so you can, select your location, automatically note your location. And then you cover, the features around, I don't know what size I require, right? For residential customers, you might just need to put in your, whatever equipment, sorry, not equipment, your belongings that you have, you select and drag and drop. And at the end of the day, it just tells you, okay, this is the size container unit you have. And in terms of that flexibility, we've also decided to launch the MVP focusing on container storage, right? Or storage units, I call it mobile storage units. The reason that we focused on this is because it's modular, right? It actually solves that problem even better because when you order a storage and that storage unit comes to you, and then you pack your belongings and it gets picked up and it goes to storage or warehouse, and you knowing that it's safe, secure, builds a lot of trust, right? With the platform. So we want to build trust with the platform. That's number one. The second thing is around efficient space leasing, right? So for warehouse or warehouse owners, right? I call them warehouse or storage unit owners. At the end of the day, they're always seeking for users, people going to use the storage. I mean, it's not in their benefit to have an open space that is not being utilized. And so they're both in their benefits to make sure that the capacity that they have is fully utilized, yeah? And at the same time, they're also looking at how to optimize their business operation, right? So they might be doing these things internally, but they might see, okay, warehouse node might give them some features or functionalities that will help them optimize the business process, yeah? And then the third part is around overhead, right? So, obviously they don't want to be spending too much money on marketing because everyone has a website, but these businesses are not built to run websites, right? They just need to have a website because they want to have an online presence. But if you go out there and look at some of the websites that these storage unit owners are using, you'll find that it's actually lacking in some way or the other. So as a user, you find that you're probably better off knocking on their door, right? Rather than coming to their website to purchase, transact, right? So that's another thing. And then the final one is around, I think I mentioned it earlier, is around convenience, around fulfillment service, right? So basically that convenience is around pickup delivery and ensuring that it's a hassle-free experience. So that's the solution that we've come up with at the warehouse node, yeah? And another thing that we're trying to do, I'm not trying to do, is something that's in progress, right? Is a thing that we take in stages in this process, right? And the stage is around, okay, let's come in there, let's build trust, right? So part of building trust means that we're going to introduce technologies like blockchain and all of these type of technologies to make sure that that process is transparent, make sure that it can be verified, make sure that there is that aspect of security in terms of the information provided, making sure that that is safe, and also making sure that there is flexibility around payments, there's flexibility around contracts, making sure that the contracts are basically automated in an automated fashion, right? And it can be tracked and verified. When it comes to disputes, that can be resolved easily. So the blockchain is an essential part of the solution that we're offering. And then there's other in terms of your other question around milestones to date. The milestone to date is basically first we focused on understanding the market, right? So market research we've done, and based on my experience, and we just try to replicate that and engage a marketing agency to try and go out and interview clients along the lines of trying to identify a problem. And the problems that we're going to identify, we have a good understanding of what the challenge is before going out to build the platform, right? So that's the first aspect. The second aspect of the milestone is around a user-friendly marketplace platform, which I just described before. So it's basically ability to come quickly, find your storage, rent it, flexibly around the rental term, tenure, how long duration. And we want to look at flexibly around payments. Sometimes in the rental industry at the moment, people normally want to take money in advance, right? But we want to be able to be flexible in terms of you pay in advance, you can always still return early, and then that transaction, you can get your refund quickly, that kind of stuff, right? So it's about flexibility around payment as well. So we want to make sure that the user experience is at its best, which is where that user friendliness. So we built a platform that is focused on this. And in this journey, it's going to be continuous innovation, right? And we're not just going to be innovating, we're going to be innovating along the lines of what the market wants, right? So that's the journey that we're taking. And in terms of the third one is around partnership. So it was very quick for us to form a strategic partnership with one of the leading container storage unit providers that quickly gave us the ability to provide the service nationwide in Australia, right? Because the company sees the benefits of working together with us with a platform that will, obviously extend their reach. So this is the stage that we are in terms of the market penetration, but we still going through a process of educating those in that industry around the benefits of coming on the platform. And we've seen the stages of making it easy, right, to onboard them, right? So that easy onboarding process is what we're looking at innovating on and working on further. But in terms of the marketing side of things, which is the next thing that we've got some traction on, we've implemented marketing strategies that have worked. So again, it's about testing and making sure that we've got a strategy that's going to work when it comes to scaling, right? So we have a strategy of, you know, the digital marketing strategy to be able to capture most users, right? That consumer users. And then when it comes to the commercial users, it's a different strategy. It's a strategy of relationship building and the trust that we have from the industry. We want to carry this along and be able to bring them on board, trusting that we're going to take them to the journey. But the other part is around, you know, working with third-party technology platform integrators who work in that space, in the storage space. So it's basically collaborating with them. We've established partnerships to be able to collaborate and also innovate together and making sure that we are solving an industry problem. So these are the key milestones to date. And yeah, that answers your question, Daniel.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I think you're in a space that there is demand there, but it hasn't been improved with technology for a long time. There's been no innovation in this space, but there is a massive demand, and it's going to keep growing. And it's not just an Australian issue; it is a global issue. I think your technology and your platform is highly scalable into new markets. You know, off using Australia as the test bed. You can easily expand into New Zealand, you know, the UK, the US, Canada, and other countries quite easily because there is that demand globally. Now, let's get into the interesting point. Tell us about the raise. How much are you raising? What's it's being used for? And what's the momentum around it?
Right. So we've gone through the first round of raise to enable us to get to the stage where we are with the platform. And that was quite straightforward because it was more, we funded it through the business and as well as trying to get other people who are interested to be part of it, to be involved, right? But at this stage, next phase of the fundraise, we're looking at raising $2 million US. And the reason we're looking at raising this is because we are really much focused on, I guess, 4 areas, right? So there's that part around making sure that we have the right consultation when it comes to legal and licensing, trademark, copyright, all of this stuff, because we're going through a journey of innovation, right? And we also looking at around 15 or 25% focus on marketing initiatives, right? So the focus is really around boosting that brand visibility. We've already started executing in a short period of time. We've been able to build the brand visibility, and the more we invest in this space, the more we look at what you described, because this is a global problem, and we're looking at tackling a global market with this platform. I mean, there are other players in this platform. We are aware of that, but we know exactly what our value is in terms of the value, competitive advantage and the value proposition we offer. So we also looking at making sure that that is clearly communicated through our marketing strategies to ensure that we get the right people onboarded, the right supply, the right customers, and the industry as a whole being part of this innovation. And then the other part, the other part is around spending 30% of it on human capital development. So at this stage, we're looking at basically getting the expertise. I mean, we've got a team of experts already involved in this project, the core founding team. There's also a team of people who are advisory board who who are constantly want to have the right people involved in this project. So attracting the right people means in some cases, we need to be able to spend to get the right talent onto it, and we want to be open to make sure that we get the right talent on this project. And then the other part is around technology development and enhancement. So the success really lies in this area. Yeah. It's about how quickly we can innovate around the needs of the customers, because those needs change, right? The problem in the industry is that a lot of players in the industry either they're aware of it or they're playing a blind eye to it, or they're not aware of it, is that customers have changed, their needs have changed, and they need to innovate along the lines of those needs. So we want to also position ourselves as working with them in terms of providing information along what this is and making sure that we make it easy for them to capitalize on this opportunity that exists today. So those are in terms of the fund use, that's how we intend to break it down and then get the things going. I mean, in terms of the focus, initial focus for us is around, market expansion. At least in the first year of execution, around market expansion is about user acquisition and retention. So how quickly we can acquire users and retain them. And then we also look at, technology enhancement. This is the focus this year, and the funding that we receive would definitely be valuable to helping us achieve our goal.
Perfect. Look, we'll leave it at there, but it's a very exciting journey. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I'm interested in finding out more and seeing where this goes. You're in an interesting space. That's ripe for technology disruption. You have a global appeal, and I think your team, given your experience, your vast technology experience, you're the right team to take it forward. So anybody who's watching this interview who wants to get in touch with Kelechi and find out more about Warehouse Node, follow the description below, and my team can connect you directly. But thank you very much for jumping on. It's been great to chat and find out more about your opportunity.
Yeah, it's a pleasure, Daniel. Thank you very much for having me.
Okay, bye.